when you put basalt, you put this, you put other antennas, you will all increase those electromagnetic, electrical, magnetic, and natural energies that will increase life. And you will see life exploding in the garden. A lot more diversity, singing birds, also more different insects. You have good insects and the bad, but when you do electroculture, you will see a lot more biodiversity of the good guys, of the good living organisms.
Imagine being able to build the health of your soil without using the traditional means as cover crops and crop rotations and inputs, but using something called electroculture. Let me introduce you to Yannick Van Doorne, who is an agronomist and independent researcher who has been putting together applications for farmers and gardeners for over 20 years and developing tools for electroculture that are being used more and more worldwide, not just by gardeners with a little garden in their backyard or flowers beds in their front yard, but farmers who are farming thousands of acres are using electroculture. In this conversation, we take a look at charging seeds, implementing electroculture on a smaller scale and on a larger scale, and how it impacts soil biodiversity and the health of the plants and the health of the soil and the health of the crops that we're growing. I'm really delighted and honored to bring this conversation with you from Yannick. Enjoy, and thank you so much for joining us for the Soil Summit. And you make yourself an amazing day. Big love. There's so many questions I have about electroculture. So my training is in polarity therapy and energy medicine, and I've always been kind of dazzled and awed by energy. And so the idea of electroculture and what that means for gardening and farming and growing food and is really exciting to me, Yannick. So thanks for joining me for the Soil Summit 2024.
Thank you too.
It's good to have you here. So Yannick, tell me, like, how did you discover electroculture?
To make a long story short.
Yeah, or just tell me the moment, like tell me what that moment felt like and what that was.
I would say it was around 1998. Then I read the book, The Secrets of the Soil, from Peter Tompkins and Christopher Bird. It's really an amazing book where you discover a lot of alternatives for agriculture, that it's possible to do agriculture without pesticides and without polluting the earth. And I was studying engineering and agronomy, and didn't learn about all those topics in my courses. So I was very interesting in this book. And this book, in this book, they have a whole chapter about the influence of round towers of paramagnetic basalt. So they speak about the magnetic forces of the earth, and also about energizing water, about microbiology, and so on. And there was also a whole chapter about the influence of music on plants. And so I decided to do a research on that topic. And I did my end-year thesis about influence of music on plants. And so bit by bit, step by step, I was more and more conscious about the influence of electricity, magnetism, and other subtle, invisible energies on plant growth. And bit by bit, it brought me to electroculture like we see it today. It took like around 5 to 10 years that I did the step to really promote almost only electroculture techniques. I did first some experiments by myself in my garden, because I wrote some articles and books and old articles, because in the 20th century there is almost nothing. It was like old articles from 50, 60, 100 years before. And so I decided to begin to do experiments in my garden, and I saw a very rapidly huge increase in plant growth, very good results. And so I did more and more experiments. And in 2008, I met a farmer in Alsace in France, and he was quite open-minded, and he let me do an experiment in his fields. And so I made big magnets in that time. It was, I can show you.
Yeah, do show us.
It's a big magnet. That was my first antenna that I made and that I used on a huge field. It's like 5 to 10 acres, huge. So it's a big magnet like this, and there is a flat coil, and there is a zinc plate on the north side, and on the south magnetic pole a copper plate. But like when you see this, you would think, how did he get this? How did he invent this? Well, that's a lot of research and understanding of how those energies works. And then I had like an intuition also, and I made that, to make a long story short also. Wow. And so I made this, and I put like around 40 to 50 in the field, like on each 12 meters, or 10, it's like, yeah, on each 12 meters, or 12 steps, you could say. And then it was on a cabbage field. And the cabbages began to grow really a lot faster than in the control fields. It was like at the end, they were like 3 to 4 weeks. They grow like 3 to 4 weeks more rapidly. It was really huge effect. And so then at that time, a journalist heard about my story, about my huge results in the field, and then he came, he made an article in a magazine, and then it brought me to other farmers, and so step by step I began to make my profession about this, to develop electroculture. But now I have a lot of different techniques. I make like round towers like this for the gardens. I make magnetic antennas, also those little ones. That's, for example, a little one that I invented for the gardens, or for everyone to be able to do experiments very quickly and with a lot of results.
And so with that little one that you're holding, what does a person do with that? And how much area does that serve?
Yes, in electroculture, you have really a lot of huge, a lot of different techniques. Well, this one is put in the earth and is connected with galvanized iron wire, or galvanized iron wire that is ferromagnetic, because these techniques work with the magnetic field of the earth, and then it has to be put really very precisely from south to north, the direction, in the same direction as the magnetic field of the earth, because the aim of this one is to act as an antenna with the magnetic field of the Earth. Otherwise, it doesn't work. If you put this in another direction, it doesn't work. It's like you take a bucket to collect the rainwater. If you put the bucket on the wrong direction, you will not collect water, even if the bucket is okay. so here with the magnet is the same. So it's good to understand that it's the magnetic field of the Earth that we want to collect, and not the magnetic field of the magnet itself, really, because otherwise you would think that if you use a more powerful magnet, it will work better or things like that. But that is not true. In nature, the power is mostly in very subtle energies. It's not about more power, more stronger, more bigger. No, it's mostly in very subtle energies that we need to understand, to learn, and then need to learn how to act with them, how to use them, how to collect them, because otherwise those energies are there always. It's like radio waves, like from the radio. We are always in the radio waves, but if we don't have the radio, we cannot hear the radio. So we need like to create the antennas that will collect those natural energies and then use it in a good way to have the effects. Because, for example, the magnet, if you don't use it in the right way, you don't have the effects too. It's the same with a lot of other techniques too. Yeah.
So with that magnet that you're holding there, the one that goes north to south, how much area would that serve or work with? How big can my garden be?
I didn't answer your question about well, when you put a wire, it will act all around the wire in a radius around 1 meter or 3 feet around, like 1 to 2 feet on each side of the wire. So if you need to cover a whole field, then you need to put a wire every meter or every 3 feet, around every 2 to 3 feet. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of wires that you need to install, but wires are not so expensive. It's quite cheap. It's just iron, galvanized iron wire. It's quite cheap. And it's normal wire that is usually used in agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And the magnets, what?
Bury that?
Yes, and you bury that. In agriculture, they use a machine to bury that. If it's in your garden, then you just take your tools and you bury it in the soil. You don't need to bury it very deep. If you put it around 1 feet, it's very good. But you can also put it just on the soil, on the top. It will work too. But it will work even better if you put it in the soil. Then you put it around 10, 20, 30 to 50 centimeters. So I would say maximum 1.5 feet or 50 centimeters, because if you put it deeper, the energy, it's not strong enough anymore, and then it will not work. I did already the experiment. Yeah, and then you put a wire every meter. You can also spread it a little more, like every 1.5 meters, but the energy field will be less stronger. So the ideal situation is to put every meter. And now in agriculture, it's not always possible to use that technique, because if you have rocks in your soil, or if it's like a farm of thousands acres, it's too big to use that, or it's more difficult. So then I developed other techniques that can be used in huge farms, but that technique is very effective. It's always very effective, but it's very useful or interesting, like for vegetable growers, also orchards. It's also very interesting. If you put it before planting the trees, you would see that the trees will grow like maybe 2 times faster. And I have already apples on apple trees that I planted 2 or 3 years before I have the first apples, after 2 or 3 years. And normally it takes like 5 years here.
Yeah, I was just thinking for orchards that this could be really, really powerful. Yannick, what does a larger scale farmer use? What do you suggest for that?
At large scale, it's the most difficult, because they don't have much room for investment. They cannot invest a lot per acre, for example, than on small scale farmers or in your garden. But there are possibilities. There are solutions. For example, the round towers. We make round towers like this, but huge, a lot bigger, and then it can radiate beneficial energies like on 100 or 200 or 300 meters around. So it can be an example. The round towers you find in Ireland is historically that were built 600 after Jesus Christ. They had an effect on kilometers or miles. You see, but those towers are like 30 meters high. So it's a lot, but you cannot build that in your garden or in the field. But you can make towers of 2 meters, 3 meters high. And those can have an effect of 20 to 40 times its height. So an example, if you make one of 2 meters and it has 40 times the effect of a radius of 40 times the height, so it's 40 multiplied by 2, it's 80 meters. So it's like 2 or 3 hectares, or maybe 5 to 10 acres.
For one tower.
Approximately, yes, approximately.
Yeah, so for a smaller scale vegetable,
you make, yes, for smaller scale, then you can also use those little ones then you mix basalt with cement to make little ones like this. And it's quite easy to make, and it can have huge results too. I explained that also in my book, how to do that, because my philosophy is really open source. I learned also from the past, from what the inventors of the past shared. So, and then I did my own experiments, own developments too. But my idea, it's really to share the knowledge that everybody can do, even with cheap materials. But I build also things, and so if people don't want to do themselves, or they prefer to buy an original one from the inventor, they can buy to my shop and support my work like this. But but the idea is really to share, because it's like this, that this knowledge will stay in time. Otherwise, if we don't share, if we just hold the knowledge for ourselves, then when we die, it's lost. and that is not the goal. That's not the objective. So the idea is really to share and to develop electroculture. And I'm very happy to observe now that since I began in the beginning, I was like alone. I could not speak to anyone about this, or I could not exchange my results because I was like the only to do it. And so with time, I met more and more people, and more people begin to experiment, and now they are all over the world. Now it's really nice to exchange and to see the results from others and to learn from each other, because we do all different experiments, and some have good results, some have bad results, and then we try to understand why and how we can improve things. And now it's really, it's like an airplane. In the beginning, it drives slowly, and then faster and faster, and then up it takes off. Well, now we are in the years, I see that electroculture is taking off, but we are still in the beginning. Now we have to go.
Yeah, it's so exciting. So what is the largest size of farm that you've worked with?
Ooh, the largest size is a farmer in Canada that contacted me that has like 2,500 acres.
Wow, tell us about that.
But it's still the beginning, so I was thinking, what can we do? Because there are only 2 people running 2,500 acres with huge machines. And so I was thinking, how can I help him? And then my first idea is to energize the seeds, because that is really what can help. Even a small gardener can have huge effects just by energizing the seeds. And when we do it on small scale, then we can put the seeds in a little pyramid, for example. I can show you one here. So then I make a little pyramids like this in copper, but that you cannot use for a large-scale farmer. But for in the garden, you put your seeds in the pyramid, it will work very well. But for large-scale farmer, we developed. I developed a system with kind of cones that are connected with a wire that we can connect to the seed stock bin. I developed also a system that works with electronics that makes a magnetic pulse that also energizes the seeds with what I experiment with. We can also put round towers in the fields, but bigger ones, and also adding basalt rock in the manure or in the fertilizers. So we can energize also the fertilizers, energize the pesticides or the water used to spray them, and if they do already all those applications, they can really increase a lot their results. They can maybe increase by 20, 30, 50%, or even more. It's always difficult to know in advance how much would be the results, because every farmer, every situation is different, every soil is different, every crop is different, every season the year, the climate, everything is they're always there are always there are always unexpected situations that changes the story. So it's always difficult. But just energizing seeds can sometimes even double the yields in a garden. Even if you don't do electroculture in your garden, but that you just energize the seeds, it can have huge results.
That's amazing. So when you're talking about the 50% increase, you're talking about 50% increase in yields.
Yes.
Amazing. So
or in growth, or in germination also.
And in germination and in what, sorry?
Yes, in the growth of the plants and the final yields. And mostly what is also very interesting, it's not only about the yield or the growth, it's also it's also the nutrient concentration that is increased. The nutrient concentration, every time they did measurements, it was always like 20-30% more, like oil content or protein content or essential oils or active molecules.
Wow.
In most cases, it was always around those numbers. Yeah.
Right. And so you're going back to the grain farmer, because that's the grain farmer was able to keep the seeds in his bins, and then you created systems to energize the seeds in his bins.
Yes, we energize directly the whole bin. So
cool.
we will connect the systems to the bin. The bins are mostly in metal, and that's good because it's a good conductor, and so you can conduct also those energies in the metal in the whole bin, to the whole bin.
Right.
But now we are doing experiments to see how much systems or how we have to apply them to have the good results. So the experiments are running now. We are trying that. But at little scale, we know it works very well. But now it's how to do it at big scale, and we need to experiment.
Right. So it sounds like one of the best places to start with electroculture is with energizing seeds. Would you say that it's true?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I would be a responsible of the Department of Agriculture, the first step I would say to the farmers is to energize their seeds. Yeah, that's because it changes the whole story of the growth of the plant. If the plant begins to grow more quickly and more stronger, then the plant is more resistant to disease, to insects attacks and everything. So automatically they will use less fertilizers, less pesticides. Everything will be will develop in a good direction. And also when they talk about climate change or problems, well, the plants are also more resistant. If it's too wet, they will be more resistant to too wet. If it's too dry, they will also be more resistant. Now there are limits, but they will be more resistant.
So powerful.
It's like it will awaken the old memories of the plants. So it's like the plants will activate again their genes or their capacity to resist. When we take a modern hybrid or a GMO plants, they are like cultivated, or they are like breeded to be like robots. You see, they cannot adapt anymore, or a lot less. They are like all robots. And with electroculture, with electrical fields, or with with the pyramid, we see that it awakens again the old character of the plant. An example, a corn plant. When you take a corn seed, and you just see that normally you will have like a robot. You will have one stalk and maybe 2 or 3 ears, or only one. When you energize it with electroculture techniques, in most cases, you will have like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 stalks, or even more. I had one with 8 stalks in my garden. And then you have on each stalk, you will have like 1, 2, 3, 4 ears on it. So you will multiply the yield, and it's like, it's because a corn, it's like a grass. And then it become again like a grass. It's like with different stalks like this, you see? But we are now so used to see the corn like a robot, like one stalk, that we think it's like that. But it's not like that. That's not his normal way of growing. That's the way of growing with modern industrial techniques. But we can do a lot better. There's also an amazing story about in the year 40s, around World War II. Scientists developed a wheat, so a grain that was a hybrid between the normal wheat and the normal wheat grain and a wheat. That this the wheat grain is annual. You have to seed it every year again. But the wheat, like wheat, WEED, it grows every year. So and then they combine the 2 genes, or they make like a hybrid of it, and then they had the wheat, WHEAT. That grow again every year, that you don't need to seed anymore. So that you see, if you have a wheat that is pluriannual, that grows every year back, then you don't need again to plow every year. You don't need to use so much fertilizers and pesticides, because it grows again like a grass. And the scientists made that. It's possible, but the industry, they don't like that, because they want to sell a lot of stuff to the farmers. So they don't want to develop, they don't want to promote or fund science projects where the farmers become more independent. They only fund science solutions or projects or research that makes the farmers always more and more dependent, like slaves. They become like slaves of a system or of the industry. And with electroculture, it's, in the way I develop it, it's like we help the farmers to become again independent. It's all research that we do in the community. It's without the institutions. It's mostly from people that really look for real solutions and real results with cheap material or with less investment. So it's really real research that respond to the demand of the real people and what the farmers really need. Now the only problem today, it's just that it's like unknown. It's like the people don't know about it, because it was so long time censored since around the end of the 30s, 40s. It was completely erased from the dictionaries, from the encyclopedia, from everywhere, all the books. And you can see that back when you go in the libraries, the official libraries of the state, and you put in the search engine of the library, you put electroculture, you will see the keyword electroculture. You will see that before 1939 around, there are hundreds of articles, hundreds of newspaper articles about electroculture. There are books, there are a lot of information. And after 1939, there are like only 5 or 10 until now. But in the period between 1939 and 2024, so it's really amazing, and it's a proof that everybody can check. It's not just me that is telling that. Everybody can check with the keyword in the libraries, and it's really a proof that it was by intent. It was censored. It's like a date, and it's really just before World War II or around World War II, and it was all over the world censored like this. It's like there was already a world government at that time, but we don't know about it.
Right. And so why does electroculture work?
Why? Oh, that's a big mystery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? So, yeah, it's we are trying, we are searching to understand how nature works, why a baby breathes when it's born, why, how we live, how our cells live, what define what is life. It's difficult. There's no scientist that can really explain that in detail. There are thousands and thousands of science articles and books. They are still searching what is the difference between life and death. And well, in the beginning of the search to electroculture, probably the first antennas that were made were antennas to collect atmospheric electricity. It was like a pole with wires in the sky at like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 meters high, or even more. And the idea was to collect atmospheric electricity because they observed, like we all observe, that when it rains, for example, the plants grow a lot better than when we take water from the river or from irrigation. It's chemically, it's the same water molecule, but there is something different when the water drops from the sky. And even more different when it's thunder. When you have electricity in the sky, like thunderstorms, then the plants, after a thunder rain, the plants grow a lot faster. And so they begin to think, yes, maybe there is like a life force energy. And 1 century ago, they were speaking, the scientists also, about life force energy. But with time, they put that vocabulary away. They don't anymore about life force. They want to see life only as a mechanics, as a robot, you see, because then they can sell chemics, they can sell body parts. It's everything. It's like a robot. But in the beginning of the research, they were looking about what is life force, and they were looking about the source of life force, and they discovered like this, that electricity is a main component, because in living organisms you have always electricity, always. But the opposite is not true. It's not because you have electricity that you have the life force.
That's right.
Sometimes well, sometimes yes, but sometimes not. An example, a robot is full of electricity, but it's not living, really. It will always be different than a real human or or a real plant. And so that's why it's more important to use natural electricity, because a natural electricity, I see it like this: you have that subtle, invisible, mysterious energy that we would call life force, or that Willem Reich would call orgone energy, that you will not find in artificial electricity, or a lot less. And so that's also why when you use antennas, passive antennas that collect the natural electricity, even with a very little bit of electricity, you have huge results. That when you use artificial electricity, in most cases, you need a lot of electricity for little results. So it's that's because that invisible factor of life force is different too. And so that is really a huge mystery, but there is a lot of research, but the industry doesn't want to speak about life force, or doesn't want you to know that, because all industrial process reduce life force. And because if you have like an apple, and they hold it like 3 years in the storage, and it looks like a fresh apple, but it's not fresh. It has already 3 years. Well, the life force will be completely out, but it will still look like an apple, but it's not an apple anymore. It doesn't have the nutrients, or it doesn't have the energy anymore. So. Yeah. And the insects and the sicknesses, the molds, the fungi, they can see, or they can feel that life force. So when you have a product or a vegetable that has less life force, it will attack it. It will just eat it and transform in compost. It's just a normal process. And when you have more life force, they don't attack it. It stays good.
So electroculture can be really effective for pest control and disease control as well.
Yes. The idea about pest and disease control, it's not really to attack the pest or the disease. It's really to increase the life force energy of the vegetable or the plant, and then the disease disappear by itself. It's like when we are weak, we are like tired, then we become diseased, we have maybe a flu or whatever, or a cough. And then when we sleep good and we eat good, we have again more energy, and then the flu go away.
That's so true. So true, Yannick. I just love it.
So we are not going to attack or make war against disease, against this, or no, we are just cultivating what is good. And cultivating, the word, the etymology of the word cultivating, it's to honor what is good, to honor. It's like a farmer, in a reality, it's like a kind of a priest, because he cultivates the land. And cultivating the land is to honor the land. It's to do everything to increase the benefits of the land. And for this, we don't have to destroy it. We don't have to make war. We just have to work and to work and to work in a good way, and to understand, to learn, and to make the best out of it. And electroculture can help a lot with that.
So powerful.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just sitting in awe at this moment. One of the conversations we had for the Soil Summit was with Dr. James White. I don't know if you've heard of him yet. I don't know. He really lit up the conversation about the rhizophagy cycle. So the understanding that plants don't necessarily absorb the nutrients. They actually eat bacteria. So plants actually eat bacteria, and then the bacteria go into the plant, and the plant strips the bacteria and then it gets shot out through the roots. Well, it doesn't actually get shot out. It actually moves out, and that's what makes the little root hairs. And then that strip bacteria goes, and then it becomes whole again, and goes through the cycle over and over and over again. The plant eats it again when it's complete. So
it's very interesting. I didn't know that story.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. So something that came up, because I asked him what's new, what else have you noticed? And he said, and I'm pretty sure I've got this right, I could have it opposite though. He said they've also noticed that the root, the end of the root, has a negative charge, and the bacteria has, I think, a positive charge. And so they're wondering if that is actually a part of the process. So I think that would be an interesting conversation to
yes, the soil, it's like a battery. And when we do electroculture, it's like we charge the battery. It's like we charge the energy in the battery. And if you look at a scientific point of view, you can maybe see that when you put electricity, it will create like an electrolysis process. So it will make that some nutrients will appear, or some ions of different of calcium, magnesium, different salts that are important for the plants. You can see it like this, but in reality, the plant doesn't absorb so much of nutrients. They are mostly water like us. A plant is like more than 90% of water and just a little bit of salt and nothing more, and proteins, and so it doesn't need really much. And there is a theory also that the plant makes its own materials, makes its own nutrients in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and in electroculture, there were experiments like by Justin Christophe-Lot, that was a pioneer in electroculture in 1918 to 1938, and 1925 he made a book, and he showed in his book an experiment. He grew plants, wheat plants, on stones, and he connected the stones with where the plants were seeded. He connected with his antenna, with his atmospheric electroculture antenna. And then he connected also the stones with a wire to the soil, so that the energy could go through the stones. And then he put enough moisture that the stones stay humid, and he grew wheat plants, so without any nutrients, only stones. Right. And he had even more results than in real soil without the antenna. He had more growth and more yield in his stones than in the real soil without the antenna. So it shows that growing or life energy, it's really energy, what makes the plants growing. Mm-hmm. If you can put as much as nutrients you want, if you put the plants like in a microwave oven, it will not grow. But right. If you put it in the right energy, if you put it in the good energies, it will grow.
Yeah. I have two questions about the energizing seeds. So for the gardener to energize the seeds of copper, like a pyramid, does it matter what the pyramid is made out of?
Yes, it matters. They did experiments. There is even a thesis from Texas in 2017 where they compared different pyramids of different materials, copper pyramid, wooden, cardboard pyramids, and they measured that the best effects were with copper. Now, it doesn't mean that the other materials will not work. It will also work, but the effects will be less. It's less strong. Huh? So but with copper, it's the most stronger that we can have. So you need to correspond with certain angles, certain proportions to make it work, and also you need to put it in the direction south to north, or the four direction north, south, east, west. It's not the angles,
that's
but
right.
the faces
At the
that
base.
you have to put.
Yeah, so cool.
Yes, the base.
And then
and it
you
acts
have
also
smaller
as an antenna.
Pardon me?
Yes, you can make big pyramids or you can make smaller pyramids. It will work as good, a big one or a little one on the seats. If you want to make electricity, for example, then a bigger one. There are also experiments with electronics in pyramids, and then a bigger one will make more. But the effects on seats, I didn't saw difference between a big one or a little one. It works also good with a little one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then charging seeds for a big farmer, how would they do that? Would they call you?
Yes, or they read my book.
Agriculture, yes.
And it's also explained how to do. So if they want to use a pyramid, for example, then they can make a pyramid like 3 to 4 to 5 meters side. So in feet, it's like 10 to 15 feet size, and then they put their big bags, their seeds in the pyramid a few days. I would advise minimum 2 days. They can put it even longer. But for example, if it's a thunderstorm outside, then even if you put the seeds only 1 hour in the pyramid, it can already have huge effects. Because the pyramid is like an antenna of those electrical, atmospheric, and cosmic energies of the Earth. And so then the farmers, they put, for example, only in France, there are more than 30 farmers, and even a lot more. But just in the region of southwest of France, there are already more than 30 farmers using that technique of the pyramid to energize their seeds.
Wow.
So, but they do it discreet. They don't talk much about it, but they do it in their farm.
Yeah.
And I have already hundreds of farmers as customers that bought me pyramids, that use pyramids in their farm. So and the first thing to do is to energize the seeds with it. But they can also energize the fertilizers. They can energize the pesticides even. They can energize rocks like basalt rocks or rocks from volcanoes, that sand and powders that can help a lot to increase the fertility of the soil. It's
cool.
always to bring like a life force energy to the field. It's like you charge the energy at the barn in the pyramid, and then you spread it in your land.
Yeah. I'm not a super fan of, and a lot of our audience isn't a super fan of pesticides, but there are some people in our community who are still using like organic inputs like
now about pesticides. I'm also not a fan, but there are still a lot of farmers using them, so we can help them to reduce the use and that they don't need it anymore. And what is interesting with the pyramid and with electroculture is that when you increase the force of the plant, the energy, that it's less attacked, automatically the farmer will use less pesticides. And when you put the pesticide or chemicals or toxic products in the pyramid, it will tend to reduce the harmful effects of it, or the harmful side effects. And it will also tend to increase the intention, your intention. When you do something, and the pyramid is very important for that, how it works. It works also with your consciousness, with your intention. When you have a good intention, it will increase the good. When you use a product, that it's organic or not, you have a certain intention, you have a certain goal. Well, you will increase the effect of that. And so a pyramid, even if they use pesticides, it can help them. So I don't want I work with all farmers, you see, with organic farmers, biodynamic farmers, with farmers that plow, with farmers that don't plow, with farmers that use pesticides, with others that don't use. So because electroculture is like it's like, until now in agriculture we looked on the physical part of life, like on the chemical part. Also in organic farming, we look about nutrients in the soil and the life in the soil, but we didn't look about the whole invisible electromagnetic influences on life. Well, with electroculture, we will look at that aspect of life, and we will do everything to optimize, to improve that aspect. And it's good, and it's useful for all kind of farming methods. You can add that. You can use that.
Thanks for presenting that, Yannick. My mom, she passed over in 2015, and she was a pioneer in the farming industry and in BC here, the organic industry, and biodynamics too, a bit. And one of her superpowers and gifts was to hold space for all farmers, because she really believed that we're all doing the best we can with what we know, with where we're at, and we all want to grow good food and provide for our families and do what we really believe and feel is best. So I deeply honor your work and the way that you're showing up for farmers. So thank you for that. The other question I had, do you have a few more minutes?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Is you've been using electroculture with bees as well. So tell us about that.
Yes, bees. Well, like you see on my antennas, I put beeswax around. And why is this? It's not to protect the magnet. Some people think that, but it's not to protect the magnet. The idea is that the magnetic field will go through the beeswax and will be impregnated by the frequencies that you will find of all the molecules of the beeswax. And beeswax is really an incredible substance, because in beeswax you will find all the molecules corresponding with all essential oils of all the flowers of all the plants that the bees visit. So when you know that one essential oil of a flower corresponds already with thousands of different molecules that are all natural, all beneficial frequencies. Well, in beeswax, you will find not only from one kind of flower, but from hundreds of them, of different flowers, lavender, all kinds of flowers. And so it's really very rich and very powerful energy. And when you smell good beeswax, you're always happy. It's kind of like a drug, but the natural. It's like you cannot be sad when you smell good beeswax. It's like a smell that it's like you are in a field in the mountains full of flowers, but it's just in that beeswax.
Yeah,
You can
there's
smell it
nothing
all
like
day
it.
long.
Yeah, I have bees. I'm looking at my beeswax candles. I can't reach them, but I agree. There's something so
Yeah, there
magical.
is something special, and so I needed beeswax for making my antennas, and then I was thinking, oh, they speak always that bees are disappearing and dying, and then I was concerned because I would like to help them to survive because we need the beeswax too to make a lot of things, and so I began to read articles and to learn about the bees, and insects in general are very sensitive to electromagnetic fields and magnetism. And there was a patent or an inventor in the 80s in the USA that discovered already that when you put magnets on a beehive, that it stimulates them. It's like the magnetic field of the magnet stimulate them, and they had a higher yield, and also they had a lot less sicknesses and problems, and they have a lot higher survival rate every winter, like around more than 50% more survival rate than before. And so I began to put magnets on my beehives and to speak about that idea and to promote that idea. And more beekeepers began to do that with very good results. A lot have really good results. And then I discovered other techniques, like to put a copper strip at the entrance of the beehive, because copper is a natural has a natural antibacterial effect. They used it in hospitals before or in the kitchen because it has a natural antibacterial effect. And so when the bees will walk above the copper, they will walk in, walk out, walk in, walk out. Well, every time they will take some copper ions inside the beehive, and it will help them to protect against fungi, against bacterial disease, and also against the varroa mite, so that little insect that is a parasite of the bees. And so the bees are a lot more stronger. They have less problems with the varroa mite and a lot less problems with all other kind of disease. And then there is another technique that I use too now. It's the Lakowski coil. So I put an oscillation circuit on the south face of the beehive, and this works also quite well. And then when you put an oscillation circuit, so it's like I have a bracelet here. It's just a copper band that is open. It's not closed, it's open, and that creates like a mini oscillation circuit, like a radio circuit that collects the natural radio frequencies of the earth, so the good ones mostly. And it will amplify them mostly on the north side of it. So that's why I put on the south side of the beehive, and it will increase the life force energy of the bees. And since I do that, my personal results in my own garden, I have like, for example, last year I had 4 beehives without anything, without electroculture. And then I have 6 beehives with the electroculture techniques. Well, after the winter, 5 of the 6 survived, and from the control group, only 1 survived of the 4. So it's a whole difference. And in my place, in my region, the beekeepers mostly lose like 30–50%, sometimes 80%, sometimes 90% of all their beehives every winter. So it's really a huge problem. The idea also is, it's a hypothesis, why magnets affects so much or is so beneficial for the beehive. The idea maybe is that the bees are really disturbed by the electromagnetic pollution. And it's like the planet Earth. The planet Earth has a magnetic field, and that magnetic field protects against too much of the solar magnetic field, of the solar activity. If we would not have that magnetic field on Earth, then probably all life on Earth would be not as today. We will all be burned down because or we will be in shortcut because of too much electricity from the sun. And then on the bees, maybe it works also like this, like it makes like a protective shield against the electromagnetic pollution. And maybe a lot of electroculture antennas works like this, because today in our gardens or the plants are really disturbed by the electromagnetic pollution. There was even a science article in the Rocky Mountains of the USA. They did an experiment. They compared the growth of of trees, and they put some trees in a Faraday cage. A Faraday cage is to protect from electropollution. And other trees were controlled. They put in a plastic cage that doesn't protect against pollution, but just to have the same light intensity, because the cage takes a little bit of the light of the sun. And so they compare the growth. Well, at the end of the season, the growth of the new growth of the trees in the Faraday cage was double than the one without a Faraday cage. It shows that today all plants, for me, that's my hypothesis, all plants and even humans, animals, we are all disturbed and all depressed by that electropollution. Because in nature, it didn't exist. And now we are like stressed by that pollution, and our bodies, our cells need to spend energy to become again normal. Because of that in the past they didn't need to spend energy to against the electropollution. And so we lose energy on things we didn't need to. And so we are all weaker, and so it's important to increase the good energies, because otherwise we lose energy. Otherwise we are too much aggressed by those electromagnetic pollutions.
Yeah, so true.
It's good to shield also, but shielding is not always good, because when we shield against electropollution, we shield also against the good frequencies of the Earth, and we need them.
So what do you suggest to do to energize?
To implement all electroculture techniques that you can find.
So in your home, you're talking like in your home, in your garden, in your farm.
Yes, and you can, for example, I showed already 2-3 techniques, like you can put basalt rocks in the garden, or basalt sand or powder. Why? Because basalt comes from the volcanoes and is mostly very magnetic, but has a natural magnetic property that we call paramagnetism. And in the USA, there is a famous inventor, researcher, that is called Philip Callahan. He wrote a lot of books about this. And now I think he died now. But he was really very interesting guy, and his books are still available. And well, those magnetic particles will interact with the Earth magnetic field and amplify them locally. And it's shown in science articles now that when you when they amplify even like by 10, 20, 30%, the local magnetic field, all plants grow better or live better or a lot more resistant also. And when the magnetic field is weaker, then everything is weaker, all living organisms weaker, because we grow on Earth with the magnetic field of the Earth since billions of years. And the energy of all living organisms is directly related with the energy of the Earth. So when the Earth energy reduces naturally or not naturally, well, then it will affect us too. And now we are in a cycle. Every I don't know, but every thousands of years, I think 30,000 or 150, I don't remember. The magnetic field of the Earth flips over, and the North Pole becomes South Pole, and the South Pole becomes North Pole.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, it doesn't flip like this in 1 second. It flips over time. So it's like the magnetic field grows, increases, and then it decreases, and then it's very, very weak, and then it flips over, and then it increases again. And now we are in a period where the magnetic field of the Earth is very low, because it will flip one time, maybe tomorrow or maybe in thousands of years. But we are at the end of a cycle. We are close to the lowest point of intensity of the magnetic field of the Earth. So it's also normal that everything is weaker. And then we are also more influenced by the solar activity. That can be good or bad, but that solar activity makes also some problems because it's very intense energy. And with electroculture, it's like we will increase the magnetic field. First, with the magnetic antennas, we will like locally increase the magnetic field, and so we feel better, we have more energy, we sleep better. I put also that's the one I took in my sleeping room because I sleep on it.
Oh, okay.
Because
And that's
just also,
that's a magnet covered with beeswax.
Yes, and then I put also a wire, and I put it under my mattress.
Okay.
Mattress.
Oh, your mattress. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yes, I put it under, but you put it in the garden too.
Yeah.
And so when you put basalt, you put this, you put other antennas, you will all increase those electromagnetic, electrical, magnetic, and natural energies that will increase life. And you will see life exploding in the garden. A lot more diversity, singing birds, also more different insects. You have good insects and the bad, but when you do electroculture, you will see a lot more biodiversity of the good guys, of the good living organisms.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, Yannick. What does biodiversity mean to you?
Biodiversity, for me, it's like a result when there is harmony and good energies. It's like the whales in the ocean. You have first water, energy, then you have little microorganisms, and then bigger ones and bigger ones and bigger ones, and then you have the whales. And it's like also the rain, the worm, the earthworm in the soil. It's like the whales in the ocean. You have just soil and or volcanic rock and energy and water, and then you have little bacteria, and then you have little more, and then plants, and then you have the whales of the soil, the earthworm. And then you have a lot, and then you have the birds that eat the earthworm, and then you have more and more living, complex living organisms. You see, it's a result of good energies and diverse, and it creates diversity. if we are in bad energy, then the diversity reduces, and the complex living organisms disappear. I see it like this, I see it like this on an energetic point of view.
I love that. I love that lens. And what does cultivating life mean to you?
Well, life, if you go my conclusion at the end of the search where I am too, it's really spiritual life energy. Yes, it's really when you search for life energy and life, you become spiritual. It's not possible otherwise, because it's a big mystery. So it's like you are searching truth, you are searching from where it is, and then you become very humble, because it's like science in a good way, it brings you closer to God. If you look at the nature as a reflection, or as the creation of God, then the more you understand nature, the more you understand God. The more it's like you want to understand God. So the more you look how nature works and life energy, well, the more you come closer to God. But but it will always be a mystery, because we are not God. But we can do a lot of things like God, because in the Bible they say that God created man as the image of him. So we can do a lot of things, but we are not God. And and so the more we understand, we can see it as really how to say that, we can see nature as marvelous and a wonder that we try to understand. We are just little children that try to understand the garden, that discover a snail or discover an earthworm in the garden, and we are looking, whoa, how does he act? What does he do? Well, a scientist at a certain point is like a child, just that is wondering how nature works. And every time we learn things, we are like praising God, that wow, that's wonderful. How it's like you tell to your friend, how did you get that idea to do that like this? Well, it's well, God had a lot of ideas like this. It's and then life becomes more and more magic in a certain way, or more and more marvelous, and then you can only respect life. You can only respect the creation, even if you don't believe in God. I think you cannot not believe in God when you really go deep in trying to understand nature. It's not possible, I think. But today they want to make us the most stupid as possible, because then we don't ask questions, and we don't want to know the truth. We just live like robots. But we are not robots. We are all looking for truth, and for life. We want to feel that we live, and that our life has a sense, that we really contribute, and that to make a better world in a certain way. I hope so. And
me too.
And so we can only then want more and more life, and so we don't want anything that kills life. because that's not what God wants to. It's even in the Bible that you will not kill your other humans, but in a certain way in nature also you don't kill to kill. You just if you eat a plant or an animal or whatever, it's always with respect. It's with respect to life and to the wonder of life. It's not just as a consumption good that you have to use or produce. Yeah, so that's how I see it.
That's beautiful, Yannick. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you sharing your life experiences and your journey of discovering and working with electroculture. And I'm really, really curious and excited to see where electroculture grows and how it grows in the upcoming years.
I think it will really grow big, and we are like cultivating the seeds of tomorrow. It's like we are really today. There are not many farmers knowing about, but it's not so a problem. What we need to do is just continue to experiment, because everything we will have discovered,
yeah,
and improved will be ready for the next one that will continue to do it. You see,
I want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you and your wisdom and all that you do. So thank you for serving and sharing.
Thank you too for organizing the Soil Summit, and it's always very interesting. And soil is yes, it's very. I had the choice to help industrial farmers in greenhouses with artificial substrates, and so to do electroculture, but that is not what I like. I want to grow food in real soil with life in the soil and increase the life in the soil, and to come back to, with time, to little farmers that really cultivate real soil, real plants, and biodiversity, and that makes that life is really. We all want to live in a nice garden. We don't want to live in a concrete box with artificial lights and agriculture like this. No, we want, I think, well, that's my goal too, with really grow food, help to growing food in really nice conditions, and then you will find that energy in the food. So the environment, the energy of the environment, you will find it in the food. So so it's important to work on that. It's not just and the soil is a very important aspect. Yeah, very important.
And electroculture
and energetically too. Every mineral in the soil corresponds with a certain crystal and with certain frequencies, and so every soil will have another influence on the qualities of a vegetable. Like you see it very good with the wine and grapes, because when you have an acid soil, you will have other kind of wine than when you have a very calcium soil or alkaline soil and things. So, well, in reality, it's with all kind of vegetables like this, and so we need to promote that diversity and that living aspect, and to become more and more sensitive to it, because when we begin to taste that, then we become more and more sensitive to it, and then we see that it's not only food for our body, but it's food for our thoughts, for our spiritual life too. It's really food at all levels. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's my honor.
It is a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Big love. Bright blessings.
Thank
Bye.
you.
If you want to learn more about electroculture, be sure to go and check out Yannick's website, and you'll be able to find his book at his website, all about electroculture. Yannick's website is electroculturevandoorne.com, and his name is spelled Vandoorne. And you can also find him on Facebook at Electroculture Magnetoculture and Instagram at Electroculture Van Doorne. Thank you so much again for joining us. And I'm curious if you practice electroculture and what your next steps might be in deepening into your journey as a farmer, as a grower of food, as a human on earth, as somebody who has agency in life. What are your next steps? Wherever you're at, trust them and take them. And you make yourself an amazing day. Bright blessings and big love.